All right, we'll move on to the fourth item on our agenda, which are visitor statements. The Board of Education welcomes and encourages the participation of citizens in the business of the school district. Thank you for your attendance. Citizens are welcome to ask questions or make comments. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. If a person would like additional time to address the board, such a request should be submitted in writing 48 hours before the meeting to the superintendent. For more details, please refer to Board Policy 2-230, Public Participation at Board of Education Meetings and Petitions to the Board. So let me just reiterate a couple of things. Please, let's be cordial to each other. Second of all, Dr. Skingus will take track of the time. He'll put the 30-second notice up when it's left, so we ask people to try to stay with their 3 minutes. And the last thing is, could you please sign your name and put your address and tell us your name and address so we know who's speaking and whether, you're residents of our school district. With that, why don't we start on this side? Does anybody on this side of the room have comments they would like to make? Might as well start in the front.
Okay, I'll just, Karen McGee, 424 Herrick Road, Riverside.
Sit down.
As long as you say it loud enough, we should be able to also capture
Typically,
it
that's
on
not an
camera.
issue for me. Is it loud enough?
I think so.
Okay. And really, all I've come to say is I'm here regarding the tennis courts, and I'd like to see them stay on site. I don't want them moved off. And I'm just throwing this out there, but it could be on top of the parking garage. Just an idea. So,
Okay.
all right.
That's
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next person on this side.
Can I fill this out then?
If
You
you
want
don't
to
mind,
speak
please.
first and then sign it. And at the next
Steve
part.
Petrus. I live at 8432 Parkview in Brookfield. Did I burn up my 3 minutes?
No, I'm waiting for you. You're good, Steve.
All right, thanks. My wife Mary and I lived here for 40 years now, and we really enjoy the community, but we are against the parking lot. Hollywood is a great school with young children, so you want to build a parking lot adjacent to Hollywood School with the cars adjacent to the windows. What about the added risk to the kids? Every hour there are 17 car fires. That's more than 150,000 annually, with some 209 people killed and some 750 injured. So these come from National Fire Protection Agency numbers. So how will this parking lot benefit the safety of our children? We don't see that as a benefit for us. Our children now may be exposed to high risk of new drivers and also impaired drivers because we're trying to attract more people who really don't belong to the neighborhood, which we wouldn't know who they are. In 2010, over 1.4 million drivers were arrested for driving under the influence of alcohol and narcotics. So the more people we bring in out of other areas, we're simply going to provide a situation that is really not acceptable to us for exposing our children. And from drugs, I'm talking about marijuana and cocaine. I work at a manufacturing plant, and when we do, it's amazing how many folks that we come in and apply for a job and we find that they've had drugs. We don't really want that in our community. We want to minimize that. With all those cars parked adjacent to grade school classroom windows, the children will be exposed to additional exhaust gases, close proximity to the school. That's something that's totally undesirable, and really I don't see how this benefits our children from that kind of exposure. Last year there was a Brookfield student from RB was killed, and I'm not talking about a high-speed roadway where 25, 30 miles an hour should be the norm. We're going to put in more people here who are not familiar with this area, who frankly they speed. We have an issue by our house where the police every morning and every afternoon try to control the RB kids while they go flying past our house, either on the alley or around our house. And so that's an issue for us. We just don't want to see that. Who's going to monitor behavior from our visitors? I crossed Washington a couple of months ago with our grandchild, who happens to be there, right in front of Hollywood School to take him to school in the morning. And one car passed, stopped. Second car, they gave me the finger and swore at us because we were crossing the street. We don't want to expose our kids to that, and we just don't want other folks to come around that area that simply add to that situation. Who's going to be responsible to pick up the trash and from the parking lot? Here's the deal. we have to, I live in that corner house. We have to deal with condoms being picked up, broken glass. It happens by us, happens around here. All that's going to do is increase that. If you put lights in there, all it does is disrupts our neighborhood. What kind of security are we guaranteed? I mean, it really is a big issue from us. And frankly, the increased traffic, that just creates more noise pollution. And one of the reasons we live in this community is because we enjoy the quietness, the trees, the greenery, that really enjoying with our kids.
Sorry, Steve, that's the
Okay.
Thank you.
You bet.
Roll by roll.
Yeah, just go row by row, how about that?
Hi, my name is Kristen Didio. I'm at 3531 Hollywood in Brookfield. I have a statement I wanted to read. An online petition was started by Matt Joseph, who is a Hollywood resident. As of this afternoon, there were 141 signatures. I would like to take this opportunity to read a sample of the comments made regarding the parking lot from some of those who signed the petition. Rich Buffo, Brookfield. The first responsibility of RB is to provide for education, not parking. I would much prefer seeing a cooperative agreement with the zoo to share parking. James LaDulce, Brookfield. The proposed lot is too close to the elementary school. Aside from the obvious safety issues, there are numerous classrooms with windows directly facing the area. Is there a plan in place for security or supervision? Maripar Scanlon, Riverside. My grandchild attends Hollywood School, and I have seen the wild traffic on Hollywood at dismissal. It is uncontrolled now, and there's no reason to believe it'll be handled any better. Bill Maloney, Riverside. I prefer a responsible use of my tax dollars, especially when teachers and education programs are cut. The cost of financing the lot is not likely to be recouped and would dwarf the expenses required to keep up the tennis courts. I'm sure the teachers union loves this. If you can find money for a sports parking lot, surely you can find more money for education. What exactly are the priorities here? Valerie McCarthy, Brookfield. It is not necessary, and the safety of our children should be considered first and foremost. A parking garage should have been considered when the new construction project was in place. Linda Zanieski, Riverside. A comprehensive community solution needs to be developed. Melissa Lelucius, Brookfield. This would be so unsafe for the children of Hollywood School. High school students who are just learning to drive are not trustworthy enough to take constant care and safety around our children. Neither are the proposed out-of-towners who may be more concerned about finding a parking spot than the safety of a strange school. There is a better solution, and I'm sure that our highly educated and cognizant government officials can come up with such a solution that doesn't just suit their needs. Bob Glennie, Riverside. This will surely increase traffic, pollution, and noise levels on Hollywood, Washington, and all other nearby streets. This impairs kids' health as well. Increased fumes and toxins from cars right next to the school. It's a pain for the RB tennis team to travel miles from the high school. Shouldn't we be promoting other methods of transportation that don't contribute to growing global warming problems? A parking lot would add to any heat island effect. This looks to be about 3 times the existing hardscape area. It also would increase runoff. Laura Tracy, Brookfield. This is ignoring the safety of our younger kids so our older kids can park their cars. Makes no sense and also makes RB a bad neighbor. James Raffensperger, putting a large parking lot next to the small grade school in a residential area is not a good idea. There has to be a better way. And I agree. These are some of the comments. Please reconsider the parking lot and come up with a solution that makes sense for the entire community, for RB, and for the zoo. And I don't think this current proposal is it.
Thank you.
Kristen Anderson, 168 Parkview in Riverside. The priorities of this board and the superintendent are unclear. Is there a project list that you can share with the community? How is it that convenient parking suddenly comes to the forefront when there are so many more urgent matters that should concern the school board? Many of the current board members ran their election campaigns on a platform of being sound business professionals, promising to be good stewards of the district's funds and to make education a priority. This parking lot represents a failure on every tenet of that platform. It simply breaks every promise. Education is the core business of this school board and district, and is being neglected to achieve the kind of misguided short-term goals that drove us into a financial mess in the first place, the kind of a mess that costs our students the best education in the state. We should expect no less than the best, but instead this board and superintendent insist on spending millions on a parking lot when academic programs are made to suffer. The new board and superintendent are no better than the last. How can you expect the taxpayers of this district to trust you to make the right decisions when you haven't earned that trust? This district spent millions on a football field and infrastructure improvements while neglecting basic life safety requirements within the school that still need to be made. The priorities on how to spend district funds should be easy. Do you think the Illinois Math and Science Academy would spend money to add parking for non-school athletic events versus robust academic programs that support critical STEM initiatives? Shouldn't a school like IMSA be our model? Again, we should expect no less. Here's what a new parking lot will achieve: reduced safety, a negative environmental impact, and a negative impact on property values, which means a lower tax base and eventually less money for the school. The traffic and the noise and lights from the field already present problems, and this can only make things worse. As a former collegiate athlete, I appreciate the benefits of athletic programs and am saddened when funding is cut. More importantly, as a neuroscientist, I am deeply concerned that only 16% of high school grads in this country choose STEM careers. How many RB grads choose STEM careers? If you don't know, you should, and we can do better no matter what that number is. Again, what exactly are the priorities for the school board? What do you wish your legacy to be? Will it be unprecedented academic excellence in a safe environment, or the Kevin Skinkis Memorial Parking Lot?
Next. Hi neighbors, I'm Dan Creek, your neighbor from 8643 Rockefeller. I've lived here for the past 20 years. We have a problem here. Someone's not being a good neighbor. I know one neighbor that has reached deep into their pockets to improve RBH Riverside Brookfield High School to the tune of some $60 million, and another neighbor that always seems to want more. Another referendum, anybody? One neighbor has relinquished part of their streets to help a neighbor in need. One neighbor sits by quietly while speakers blare and floodlights fill the night sky. Now my neighbor wants to remove tennis courts and green space that we enjoy and replace it with yet another parking lot, a parking lot adjacent to our elementary school, destroying the peaceful view the students have had since the 1940s. Why does my neighbor want to endanger our children with 130 additional cars and their associated noise, pollution, visual distractions, possible crime, and to contribute to local flooding, which is already beyond the realm? My neighbor has had a financial windfall, $8.9 million, and now wants to spend it as quickly as possible. A new stadium? A new parking lot, anyone? I think not. Who really wants more parking and traffic congestion in Hollywood? How about being financially conservative and preparing for that rainy day that we are sure is going to come? How about paying back the folks that reach deep into their pockets? Thank you. Thanks.
My name is Chloe Frankowitz, and I'm a longtime resident right across from Hollywood School. I am on the list 3420 Hollywood and a former educator in District 96 and a present educator in Proviso Township High Schools. I'm not going to repeat everything that was articulated and well said, except it appears that one of the things we're concerned about is life safety, and of course using our taxes wisely, and maintaining an era of Hollywood schools that contribute so much to RB High School. Some of your highest ranking and best students come from that area. Why push them away and people won't want to come into the area with a parking lot next to one of their high-class schools? One thing I'd like to mention is perhaps a suggestion. The Proviso Math and Science Academy, which is located on First Avenue in Roosevelt, was asked in Forest Park, was asked by Loyola if they could use the back of their building, which is between the high school and Curry Motors, and use it as a parking lot for Loyola Hospital. That was a no-go between Forest Park and Proviso Township High Schools for the same reasons that you've heard everyone speak here today: safety, wise use of taxes, etc. Where has Loyola gone? They've gone across the street and they use the forest preserves as a parking lot. I think there are other alternatives. I think there are things that can be negotiated and lobbied, and I hope that our board considers that and thinks about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Before I speak, we did have a brief.
Could you tell us your name and where you live, please?
Patrick Boyle, 3416 Hollywood Avenue.
Okay.
I do have a list of frequently asked questions that have been coming up. Could I pass this off to you guys now, or would you prefer to do that later on?
You can give me a. Thank you, Pat.
As stated, my name is Patrick Boyle. I'm at 3416 Hollywood Avenue, directly across from the open green lot. I'm here as a taxpayer, as a resident of Hollywood, and a parent of two Hollywood elementary students, to express my concern and disapproval of the proposed special event parking lot that's slated to break ground early next year. I've spoken to all of you in the past regarding this matter, but I feel it's paramount to reiterate my concerns, my family's concerns, and my neighbors' concerns with this project. During the first wave of concerns brought to your attention, there were some extracurricular activities that were brought to your attention about students and vehicles on the leased parking lot. Board member Tim Walsh was disturbed at how he could bring such disparaging comments about the students at RB, because he always gets some pretty darn good reports about the students there. Well, I do agree that there are good students at RB and that are outstanding students. There are several students there that we are concerned with. This year alone, there were 3 RB students that have been charged with various wrongdoings, including one student being charged with a felony disorder conduct for a bomb threat. One student was charged with felony aggravated assault for attacking a female classmate in the school hallway. And a third student who was charged with a Class 4 felony for threatening to assault a teacher. And let's not forget about the homecoming week senior prank that started with these students meeting in the Rockefeller parking lot before inflicting thousands of dollars in damage.
I'm sorry, could
to
we
the
keep
school.
it focused on this proposal?
These are the types of students that we are concerned about. On Saturday, June 1st, RB hosted the RBHS Summer Shootout that hosts several area high schools. The school utilized the open green field as a temporary parking lot, as it has in previous years, and it was filled to capacity. Unfortunately for the school and the surrounding residents, the lot was not large enough to eliminate the increased traffic around the Hollywood community. This proves the fact that even if this lot is constructed, it won't be large enough to meet the school's needs, and prove beyond a doubt that this school board will again be looking for more parking in the future. We could take the advice of board member John Keene, who said that we should stand back and let us do our job. I can assure you that this community will not sit back with our hands in our pockets as you attempt to take our tax money and use it for an inefficient parking lot. The call for an overpass across First Avenue for the safe passage of Riverside and Brookfield children has again fallen on deaf ears. Instead of using part of this grant money to construct that overpass, the board is choosing to use our tax money to build this parking lot. I'll conclude and end with a question. With increased student enrollment, ever-increasing student fees, the possible loss of state funding through Senate Bill 16, cutting the student activities, and open life safety issues, is building a parking lot fiscally responsible?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else on this side?
Hello, my name is Wes Smithing. I live at 8526 Rockefeller Avenue. It's about 6 houses down the street from the tennis courts. Hi again. So, well, I wanted to talk about, obviously the parking lot and our disagreement with it, but it's more than just as I said before, it's more than just a track and field space, even though those kids obviously are out. But our kids, the neighborhood kids use that as a green space and park and pick up baseball games and all weekend long, and it's been a great thing. I'd like to reiterate that when I moved in 5 years ago, there was 4 kids on on our 2-block area. Now there's 22 kids under 7th grade on that block. So and it's just growing multiples as every house for sale, a new family moves in. I feel this parking lot would increase traffic and endanger those kids. It's hard enough, and we're already in front of the Brookfield town about speed limits and parking and all the different variables we can do to stop the fast traffic. I think this will just speed it up. I think spending money, quite a bit of money, on a small what I would consider a convenient factor in building a parking lot that's probably not going to serve the needs that you really need it to serve. And then we'll be back here in 7 years, Mr. Walsh, again going, well, it's an old problem, it's still an old problem. I don't think it's really fixing it. I think there's other alternatives, and I think we need to keep working at finding those alternatives. I think putting this off and working through these issues with the neighborhoods would be beneficial for everybody involved.
Thank you, Wes. Thank you. Anybody else on this side of the room?
Good evening. My name is Sue Gersh. I live at 8533 Rockefeller Avenue, and I'm here speaking as a board member of the PTA of Hollywood. I've been on the board for 6 years, and as a leader of the PTA, I felt the need to express that the PTA is an organization of parents, teachers, and the community, and this is not in a good spirit of the community, building this parking lot right outside of the school. The parents of the school are not happy about this situation. We're having trouble explaining it to our children. Why would the high school do this? My children, I have two that are attending and one that's moved on, but they're all asking me, why would the high school do this? This is not a neighborly thing, and I feel that we can reach a compromise. And my question to you would be, what has been done as far as reaching out to the zoo, the forest preserve, to try to come up with another solution? I would like to have an answer to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Sure. Anybody else on this side of the room? None?
Hello, everyone. I'm Rolando Cruz. I live at 3436 Hollywood. I just got a couple of quick things. When you started the meeting, you said you would be, one of the things you're charged with is to inform and to gather information from us. Perhaps it's my fault. I don't attend many of these meetings at all. But I'd like a little information, much like was mentioned a little bit earlier. I really don't know what we need this particular structure for, and getting the little bits and pieces of information that trickle out and finally get to me, I really don't know what it's for, and I don't know if 125 spots would satisfy the need that was told to me. So I'd like a little information on that. I really don't believe, from the little information that I've gotten, that 125 spots or 130 even would satisfy it. But I live right across from the green space there, and I've flown kites with my kids there. I've taught my daughter how to pitch there. I've played football with the kids there. When I moved here from Chicago, and the green of the neighborhood was really striking to me. The character of Hollywood really jumped out at me. It was something special to me. Where I did come from, the schools, they were concrete, they were surrounded by concrete, and they were surrounded by parking lots. And I do remember attending these schools where I'm looking out the window and I do see a car there. and I see, perhaps a teacher having her smoke break. That was a long time ago, but she was having her smoke break. And I remember these things, and I remember them vividly, and I really, really appreciate that my children didn't have to see that. I have 3 kids, 2 graduated RB, and I have 1 in RB right now. And to take the tennis courts and that field, which I think to the whole neighborhood seems to be like the place where you go fly a kite. The place where, let's throw the football around, let's throw the frisbee around. To take that away from it, I think is detrimental to the character of Hollywood. And I don't think it'd be a disservice to the neighborhood. That's all.
Thank you, Ricardo.
Anybody else on this side? Before you come up, we're going to let everybody have their 3 minutes, but we got, it probably doesn't add a lot to repeat what the other people said. If you have a right to do it, we're going to let you do it, but, there's other, if you want, we're going to provide information, a lot of things people are asking about when we get past the first set of visitor statements. But come on up if you want to, you have a right to speak.
My name is Rich Buffo. I'm a resident of Hollywood, 3603 Rosemere. About 19 years in the area, father of 4 kids, gone through Hollywood, and some have gone through RB, some who are presently at RB. Long time user of the area, and volunteer for parking during with the music sponsors here, so during IMEA, so I'm familiar with the struggles on both sides. I'd like to echo that I'd like to see effort put forth in cooperating with the zoo and the Park District, the Cook County area, and see if we can come to an agreement either on sharing. The zoo is a great neighbor while trying to coordinate parking for IMEA, and I think we could build upon that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else on this side? Anybody on the other side? Hold on.
We got one in the middle.
One in the middle. You want to wait a minute since I went?
Good evening. Bob Glenny. I'm at 196 Parkview. I've got 2 kids that will be attending Hollywood. We moved into the area 2 or 3 years ago, and this has been a great area. I don't want to repeat a lot of things that other people said. I did send an email to Dr. Skinkis. He was kind enough to look at it and respond. But it's frustrating, I know, when people are just saying, I'm against, without offering some solutions. So I don't, here's some other thoughts. And like the other person said, I think most people don't really know the reasons behind this lot and then what alternatives have been looked at. So involving the community with that, I think would be much appreciated. Obviously, there's got to be a reason for this, and there's, I don't know what solutions and alternatives people have looked at. And also, I'd like to know what is the decision-making process? How does that come about? Who votes on it? Who decides, et cetera? So if that could be addressed at some point, I'd appreciate it.
We'll do that tonight. Thank you.
Anybody else on that side? Oh,
We got
no, I was going to ask him to wait.
Oh.
On that side, then we'll get the back, all right?
Okay.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Perry. I live at 3728 Woodside Avenue in Brookfield. I do understand that RB has a parking problem, and I understand that you're landlocked, and I do understand that you've tried to work with the zoo. But what I want to know is, have you considered alternatives? North Riverside owns a parking garage that sits on the outskirts of North Riverside Park Mall that sits unused. Has there been any discussion about shuttling people back and forth for these special events, which is what is driving the need for this parking lot? The Village of Brookfield has a very large parking lot around Village Hall. I'm sure that some agreement could be made with them to utilize that parking and shuttle people back and forth from Village Hall here. And if you can't find the money to pay for a shuttle to get people to remote parking, maybe these tournaments and special events aren't as lucrative as you tell us that they are. Maybe it isn't worth hosting these things. There are other alternatives, and it's the responsibility of the board to think outside the box. I understand you're in a tough position, but you have a responsibility to spend our tax money wisely and look at all their alternatives besides taking away tennis courts and valuable green space. The Village of Brookfield in the past has been able to procure grant money to purchase green space because there is a big shortage of green space in the Village of Brookfield. And I hate to see one of the last pieces of green space paved over for a parking lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
I'm Beth Cross. I live at 1205 Ostrander, which is in LaGrange Park, but it's that little tiny piece of LaGrange Park that is in district. So I signed in on the back sheet. I wrote out my thoughts so we'd get through it. I'm here to express my concern about the removal of the tennis courts from RB property. The neighboring homeowners are doing a great job expressing the concerns about safety, loss of green space, potential flooding, all of that. But I'm here as a tennis parent tonight to express my concerns about losing the tennis courts. First, the issue of transporting the students, all of the tennis students, off-site every day. How many adults will be traveling with the students? If a player is injured, there are no trainers up at that field that we're thinking of moving to. Excuse me. What does that mean? Will a coach have to leave with a student to bring them back on a bus? What are the plans in the event of severe weather? We've had it here, the kids that go into the stadium, or if there's time, they run over here to the school. There are not facilities there for that. What about summer camps? Will families need to get their children to North Riverside to do the tennis camps rather than coming to RB? If you take a look here during the day at the bike racks, they are packed here during the day with young people and high schoolers that ride their bikes here, and riding towards the mall is just not practical for kids to get to. The other issues that concern me are the facilities that are there for water, for restrooms. And because we are a school based on academics first, what happens if a student needs to remain at the school to talk with a teacher or administrator for a while after class and therefore would miss the bus? Do they then forfeit going to practice at all? By moving the courts away from the school, we lose another part of what makes RB so special, and that's the sense of community. Other students will not be able to just walk over and support their classmates during the matches. Younger kids won't be able to participate in summer camps, which is a moneymaker for the school, and the neighborhood will lose the newly renovated tennis courts from last year. If the school is willing to pay for the tennis courts to be built in North Riverside, why not build them on the property? I urge you to consider looking into partnering with the zoo to discuss alternative options, including possibly paving over the baseball fields behind the school that are not in use any longer because those teams have already been lost to North Riverside. Once they're gone forever. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on this side? Anybody in the back now?
Guy in the middle.
Is there a way to turn these microphones up because you can't hear in the back?
Those are for the video, so you just gotta speak louder. Name and address, please.
My name is Brian Serta, 8506 Rockefeller Avenue. Now I want you to imagine you're in second grade, taking the math test for the first time. Or you're in third grade, where the ISAT score doesn't matter anymore, but the NWA tests do. It's been less than a minute. This is what happens at the event. For the people who live around Rockefeller and Hollywood, just background noise. So when you're in 4th grade, or you're a teacher, trying to keep kids paying attention, pay attention, pay attention. I guarantee I am a teacher, and this is no laughing matter. The students' attention is very fragile. I teach 4th grade. This will not help. And what's shocking is that people who run a school are not thinking about other students.
Yep.
This isn't my phone, by the way, so we have to go find the person whose phone it is. Or we can just be patient. Maybe it'll go off.
Thank you, Brian.
Time's
That's
up.
10 minutes.
Please turn the phone off.
I couldn't hear you, the alarm was going on.
You could hear, the time's up. Please turn the phone off and move away. Thank you.
Sir,
Sir.
that's right. Be hospitable.
Is there any more comments in the back?
My name is Tom Tulik. I live 3623 Hollywood.
What's your last name?
Tulik, T-U-L-I-K.
Thank you.
3623 Hollywood. I moved here in May of '94. I too grew
Hold
up
on
in
a second. Could you please turn that off?
Is it bothering you?
Yes, it is.
Is it bothering you?
Yes, it
Do
is.
something about this.
I am. I'm asking you to turn it off.
No one's control. This is a car alarm.
Sorry, Mr. Tulik, you could start over.
I live on 3623 Hollywood. I moved here in May of '94. I too grew up in the city of Chicago, where exactly like that gentleman said, there are schools among a mass of concrete. I too played with my kids here at the tennis courts. Not necessarily tennis, but we tossed around the ball. We usually played hockey. And showing my age, I mean, we already have something. I can't see tearing something down and put up a parking lot. We're tearing down Paradise and put up a parking lot. I know I'm showing my age, but it just seems ridiculous. We have something. It's not like where I grew up in the city where you're looking for, trying to get abandoned cars out of places to make something green. You have green. We've got green here. We're putting up a parking lot. And like when somebody said, there's parking lots all around to be utilized one way or another. You know, they're there. I know it's a hassle sometimes. I live down the street. People come from the train. They park along that train. People walking here. I'd rather see that than something paved over. And anybody that lives right directly here, when you see the rain today, I have no clue where that's going to go. Except in your basement.
I got a picture of the lake in front of my house.
Yeah, and, you know, with a parking lot paved over, I have no clue where that's going to go. I really feel sorry if you live directly in that area. It's just what we just saw an hour ago. It's going to be hell. It really is. And I just don't see tearing something down to pave it over. I think we could do something better with if you don't want a tennis court, there'd be something better than a parking lot. There has to be. It seems like parking lot's the last alternative. When I grew up in the city, there was abandoned cars. Well, let's put a parking lot because there's a store down the way. At least you got something. We have something. We have something. like I said, I just don't see a parking lot. I really don't.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the back? Come on. Hi.
Hi, Dr. Stinkus.
Don't worry.
I'm Eileen McCormick Nicodemus. I live at 8516 Rockefeller. And I completely reiterate everything that my wonderful neighbor said. The one thing I would say is that several years ago, we worked with RB to when you guys were putting in the cul-de-sac at Rockefeller, and we talked about possibly having a parking deck. That was changed, but I would say before you decide on breaking ground in 2015, taking a look at, going back to that structure, talking to the zoo would be one possibility. And the other thing is maybe talking to all the stakeholders, and instead of, it seems like you're just sort of decreeing that this will happen and telling us, maybe, getting the villages on board and asking some input so we can work as a community and say, this is a problem we're having, and let's come together as a solution. I think that you'd find that there were a lot of people willing to help out instead of feeling polarized about the issue.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the back? And again, we've got a lot of information to provide you. There's another visitors comment section. If you just want to repeat what people said, you might want to hear some of the information first. And there's another visitors comment too. I'm just saying, if you want to repeat, that's fine. Could you tell us your name
Kevin
and address?
Nicodemus, 8516 Rockefeller. What I don't like about this is it doesn't seem like it's a complete solution. You've got only 125 spots. You need more than that, I believe. So that's going to mean, until we have a complete solution, I don't think it's really worth doing. The other, just throw this out there, if the special event parking is so important, have you considered tearing down the high school to make room for it?
Thanks, Kevin.
Anybody else? Yes, at the end.
Okay.
Anybody else? You can't go twice. That's against the rules. Anybody else?
How you doing? My name is Mike Bloodgood. I live at 3414 Hollywood. Just recently bought the house almost a year ago. We moved into the community because of the atmosphere, the zoo, the green, like the other gentleman said. The whole idea was to just we're coming from the city pretty much, to give them a different life. The thing that puzzles me is, why would you take away something that's so valuable to the community? Where I have 2 children, I have one daughter that has special needs, and we utilize that park very frequently. We play catch across the street, whether we're in the field, the tennis courts are being utilized, whether they're playing hockey or they're playing tennis, dodgeball, whatnot. There's got to be another solution than taking away valuable space from the actual community and pretty much taxpayers. This is just today, from just an example. I'd like to show you a picture of the front of my house, which I live directly across from the green space. And you can see, I don't know if you can, but my street is underwater. And that's with the green there absorbing the water system, the overflow. With the parking lot, where exactly?
Just so you get a better idea of how much water, this is 15 minutes of rainwater.
Please let him do his.
Yeah, this is my wife. So, that's pretty much.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Anybody else in the back? Okay, we're gonna. Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Jamie Wilson. I live at 1209 Ostrander Avenue. I'm Beth Krause's neighbor, whether she likes it or not. I just want to say tennis is a great sport. We have a very dedicated coach. It's not just hitting a ball. It's a team building thing. It teaches responsibility. And I can say my kids have been in tennis for over 10 years, and it's been a very positive, good thing for young kids. If you take the courts and put them out of sight, I think people will forget about the sport. And we've had cuts where we've lost assistant coaches, and our coach has, struggled to get through it. And I think that is just, it's like one thing after another, and it's just not right. It's a very positive sport, and it's something you do your entire life. And the neighbors also play it, and you can play it when you're 4, and you can play it when you're 84. So I think there's just something to think about. It's a positive, good thing, and it breaks my heart to see how other high schools routinely maintain the tennis courts. And we haven't done anything, or we patched them incorrectly, and then the coach has to beg you guys to fix the courts. And then we were promised that, someone would look at this, and the next thing you know, oh, by the way, the kids have to be bused every day over to North Riverside, where there's trains in Costco now. I don't know, I work in Berwyn, I come home every day that way. I don't think it's gonna be a 20-minute commute. And then our poor coach, who's got no assistant, has to ask the young girls to lug all the, equipment. So I just think it's kind of a slap in the face for the moms that did a lot of the legwork last year, and it's a slap in the face to the students and to the community. And I think that's why a lot of people have a lot of emotions running high tonight, because we trust you, and we respect you, and we appreciate all of your hard work, but we really don't want to lose our tennis courts and our green space. It's a really important thing, and I think you guys are getting that message loud and clear tonight. So I hope we can all come up with a compromise.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you for that.
Anybody else? Okay, why don't we move on with the agenda? And I didn't say at the beginning, but the board's practice is not to respond to comments from the community, but part of the reason we're here is to address the issues that are raised. So I am, because I think it's important for people to consider, going to address yes, can you not hear me? All right, can we get speakers in here next time?
You can move up to this closer table if you'd like.
No, I'll try to talk louder. So I am going to address, John, if it's okay with you, a couple of questions, because I think it is important as we go through you understand the process. Somebody asked, who is the decision makers? It's the 7 board members that were elected by the residents of Riverside Brookfield High School District. So whatever decisions are made with spending money or making change to the facilities, you've elected, and the other people in the community have elected 7 of us to make those decisions. And I think a second thing, somebody mentioned, I was a little concerned in the vigilance or the way people want to make their presentations. I felt they were being a bit harsh on our students, but I also feel some people are being a bit harsh on our superintendent. He reports to the board. The board directs him what to do. We told him to look at alternatives for parking. We told him to look at alternatives for the athletics and what repairs need to be made. So I think it's a better alternative that you address criticism to the 7 members of the board that you elected to address it, and understand that as a superintendent, he's trying to do what we direct him to do. So, the third and last point I want to make is, if we weren't landlocked and facing the situation, we wouldn't be having this discussion. We wouldn't be talking about parking. We wouldn't be talking about moving sports. We wouldn't be talking about some of the things. We might be talking about spending the money and the repairs that we need to be made anyway. And I don't know, we're going to try to do the best we can in addressing issues, but I'm going to tell you, I hear things every meeting. I get emails on things that I never heard before. I never heard the board say. And it's hard for us to address them all, but we're going to try to do the best. And when you're thinking about that, just like our duty is to do with the facilities of Riverside, Brookfield, what we think is best for the school district and for the students and the community, we face the same issue everybody else faces. Yes, if you live across the street, you'd rather not see a green space go. That's been there for years. But guess what? As you're going to find out, we've been talking to the, Dr. Skink has been talking to the zoo ad nauseum about alternatives here, and we're going to try to fill you in on that today. We've been able to use the baseball and softball fields for years, and as time went on, they took more and more away. If you talk to people who are my age that were students here, they used to get to cut through the zoo to go back and forth to school. We're facing the same issue the other neighbors are facing. The zoo wants its land, and it doesn't really want to accommodate our needs, okay? And we'll more specifically talk about certain of the issues as we go through the agenda so you can understand, you know, again, as of today, what kind of information we gathered and what we're considering in making decisions on how to go down this path. Did you want to add anything, John?
A lot of my neighbors from Hollywood are here, but I just want to reiterate that, you know, the board, whenever we make our decisions, we have to represent the entire district, Brookfield, North Riverside, and parts of Lyons. So please just keep that in mind.